Okay. See me? Yes. Okay. Hello. Good evening. This is my presentation on Sikhism and Hinduism. I'm doing a comparing and contrasting of the two religions. And yeah, this is how it's going to be. Like a little preface is originally I wanted to do a project based on Hinduism and Shintoism because Hinduism was the first project or the first chapter we had learned, and um, Shintoism is the one I was kind of most familiar with due to popular uh, like pop culture renditions of it and the way it was portrayed and stuff. So I kind of knew about that already. But as we got to the Sikhism chapter, I really started to see how almost in a sense, it was Sikhism and Jainism are two religions that I feel like stood out because they just they weren't like the other religions. A lot of religions focus on losing yourself in order to gain yourself in a sense, like detachment from the world completely to achieve enlightenment and escape from the rebirth cycle. But what I found interesting about Sikhism was that within Sikhism, you're still trying to attain escape from uh, the cycle of the rebirth cycle to achieve like complete liberation, but you do it while still maintaining a sense of the world and in a sense not necessarily leaving complete like a, you do not have to be like unattached to the world in order to achieve liberation. And I found that very interesting and kind of I thought it was cool compared to the other religions. So then I switched my religion to Sikhism versus Hinduism because I felt there were two other religions that excuse my cat, it's gonna be meowing a lot. I felt like there were two religions that focused in the same demographic mostly in India, but very key almost parallels and changes to the way they view their people and they view their role in society due to the laws they follow and like the scriptures they follow and so without further ado, let's keep going. um oops, how do you go back? There we go. So introduction. Sikhism is a religion which originated in the Punjab region of India. We covered it in class with our Petra's presentation the day before this one, but um, it's a small section, kind of close to, I believe it's in a section close to Pakistan. Um, it is considered a rather young religion due to the nature of we have religions like Buddhism and Hinduism, and I think yeah, that have been way longer, like thousands of years older than this one. And contrary to popular belief and even my belief prior to this class, Sikhism is not a sect from Hinduism. It's its own religion. As an outsider looking in, I kind of generalized everybody, and I thought Sikhism was almost like a caste level of Hinduism, which is not. It's its very own religion, and they often get grouped together due to the fact that one of the gurus was, I think it was he was from India and he was Hindu, and then he translated, so it's kind of like a mixing translation kind of thing. Sikhism does have a known founder, and it's Guru Nanak. That's not Guru Nanak. That's just a picture of a Sikh. Um, Sikh means also learner, and I feel like that's a very good name for it due to the way they try to strive as people in society and almost like their principles and who they are to gain liberation. So that's just a little intro to Sikhism. Um, while Hinduism originated in the Indus Valley of India area, it is the third most followed religion in the world and one of the oldest. And unlike Sikhism that has a known founder, Hinduism has no known founder, but it does have very old text which like guides the ways of Hinduism. Go on next. Just a little topic on supreme, on basically their respective supreme beings and how they view them or view it. Within the Sikh religion, there is one single universal God, the Divine One. It is also known as Waheguru, and the words is the name Waheguru is a combination of the Hindu words Wa, which means wonder, and Guru means teacher. Um, and they do believe like the Divine One is the one true creator and sustainer of all things, and is present in all things, basically. Uh, they also believe that all living beings have the potential to connect with God through meditation and devotion. And um, unlike Buddhism, Hinduism, the supreme being isn't necessarily seen as one thing. Like you see in the next slide, like how Hindus view God and stuff like that, supreme being, but it's not visually represented in pictures or statues like how Hindus worship statues. It's not like that. It's a little bit different. They believe you can't really quantify it to a single visual. It would be almost a disrespect to try to contain it to something when it is basically beyond everything. It is like universal. So that's why. When it comes to Hinduism, supreme being, Brahman is the supreme being, like the ultimate reality of all life as it is and everything, nature, all sense of everything, basically. And you see how I mentioned earlier, it is in Hinduism you worship other gods as let's say Ganesha and stuff like that, the elephant-headed god. And when you worship other deities, all these many deities in Hinduism, you are essentially worshiping different aspects of Brahman, which is what I find interesting about Hinduism. I mentioned this in class that within Hinduism, the reason that you worship all these gods and deities is that for different aspects of your life, different aspects of everything, it is easier to worship a Ganesha, like the god of beginning and stuff like that, more singular, pinpointed. Like if you use a god for a single pinpointable aspect of life, you connect easier with the higher being, which is why a lot of gods and deities are worshipped for different aspects of life. You just connect better, but they are all fundamentally different aspects of Brahman, the ultimate being, and that's just a good difference you see in between the two. And although I thought they were the same, Hinduism and Sikhism, prior to this class, you see, Hinduism is very, very large and takes up most of India, of the Indian population, while Sikhism is just like a 5% of the population. It's very small, and due to the fact that they are very small in size and quantity of followers. That's also part of the reason that that is the reason because it's new religion find smaller, but also later on you'll see how that affects them in society and in culture, both of them, not just Hinduism but Sikhism as well. Um, this is more of like the Sikhism beliefs and principles. Um, in Sikhism, you're very pushed toward being champions of justice. They're seen as um, while they are named Sikh is like learners, they learn and they want to have better the world is basically in a sense what I was talking about earlier. And because there's champions of justice, you see them very much not giving up life as a whole in order to attain good karma and liberation for the in the next reincarnation cycle and stuff like that. But you see them being prominent figures in society and prominent figures trying to help do the best as they can and be as good of a person as they can be. And while that is translated in a lot of different religions to be the best due to like karma and stuff like that, I believe the Sikhs do it the best way in my personal view because they don't need to police themselves of the world. While in essence, monks and gurus and stuff like that, it makes sense that you having non-attachment to the world, you you can better liberate your own spirit and soul. The Sikhism belief of bettering the world and being good people and social justice heroes, and I think engulfs the notion of that most religions have of bettering the world and being good people better than other religions do. Um, Key principles within the religion are praying and devoting oneself to God, living truthfully, and serving mankind. Serving mankind is probably the most important thing because you'll see this in the way they, in their scriptures, and like the 5Ks, um, very important to them to like serve mankind. That's what they're here for almost. And that is in the way, that's the way they attain liberation and good karma through following those principles. For Hinduism beliefs and way of life, you have the Dharma and karma essentially. Um, sorry, Dharma and karma. Good karma essentially gives you a better reincarnation in the next rebirth cycle in the cycle. And the Dharma is like a code of conduct depending on one's caste and their stage in life. Um, the caste system is a very important system of Hinduism and India as a whole, which is when comparing and contrasting two religions is the one that I feel is the most detrimental and one that I really don't agree with. Hinduism as a whole does have very good practices and examples of living life and attaining yourself and finding yourself within religion. But the caste system is something I really can't get behind. Is why when comparing, when looking previously at what I was gonna do for the project with Hinduism and like Shinto, um, it really made me think of the way the Indian population and the followers of the two religions of Hinduism and Sikhism were very polar opposites in a sense. Um, but more to this, samsara is the cycle of your spirit. So while following, what Hindus do is they'll follow the Dharma code of conduct, and that will in turn bring you good karma. And the whole point of Hinduism is to escape the cycle of samsara and achieve moksha, which is liberation from the samsara cycle, and that's how you like free yourself of the cycle, and that is the ultimate goal, basically. Um, uh, the Dharma in a way will show you uh, the way people view the Dharma is like this quote from a text of the ethical principles of Hinduism, as he will be an embodiment of the virtues of self-denial, humility, fraternal love, and purity. The self-denial is, I think, the biggest part that I take from Hinduism. Hinduism, like Buddhism, they tend to, the main belief is you have to detach yourself from the world and then take part in self-denial in order to free yourself of worldly possessions and feelings and stuff like that. And then that way you'll achieve uh, moksha, hopefully. And I think that self-denial and that attachment to the Hinduism beliefs is what I can't get behind when comparing it to Sikhism, which is very much about not having the self-denial, but more about trying to get past that and worry almost less about yourself, but worry more about the world as a whole and try to get the world to be a better place. And that is how I view is a better way to achieve salvation and liberation. So the next one, and this is just like illustration depiction of how through the Brahma, and you see how the Hinduism divides people into the caste system. Um, Brahmins is like the highest way you can be. Uh, Kshatriyas is like a very difficult word for me to say. Is the warriors and ruler class, like the middle. Um, Vaishyas, yes. Farmers, traders, and merchants. And that's like a little bit below, more like commoners. Laborers doing basically what nobody wants to do. Um, just to help the system work. And you know, Dalits, the outcast, not even signaled in the, not even shown as a part of Brahma's body, just the lowest of the lowest, street sweepers when nobody wants to do. And why I do not agree with the caste system and the Hinduism belief of the caste system, while I know it wasn't forced politically by the British when they colonized India, but the way that you're attached to these to your caste and you're limited in what you can do not only for yourself but for the world is, I find it very detrimental to society, not only to society but as a person, as a spirit. When you're limited this much and you face all these specific obstacles, I personally do not believe it is the right way. That's why when I saw this and I thought about Sikhism and I saw the difference in the way almost essentially people are treated, I really wanted to do my project on comparing, contrasting, showing, highlighting these, especially the human value point of it, how it they're almost polar opposites in that sense, and that's what I found the most interesting. This is just almost like a focal point of the PowerPoint and presentation is just um, the Hinduism and Sikhism role in society, and how I have here that Hinduism's role in society is largely connected to the caste system. That's due in part to the fact that you can only do so much within the society and the world because you're forced to be contained into the caste that you're born in. And while you can see that as a way of saying, I have to do the best of what I have in order to, with rebirth, I have a better chance of moving through the caste system and attaining a higher caste in my next life. That is a way people can push through and try to attain to be the best people that they can be with the role they've been given in society. Um, I do see how that can work, but fundamentally, as an outsider looking, I guess, in, I see that as completely wrong that you're forced to live in society in this way. It's just not necessarily like the values I share. So that in contrast to Sikhism, where many Sikhs are encouraged to be a part of society and do well for mankind, that is the ultimate focal point, basically, of Sikhism. I do see that. Sorry, I do see that the reason I resonate so heavily with Sikhism, I see them as true social justice warriors, and in a world where, or let's say in a religious world where Hinduism and Buddhism is kind of shown at the pinnacle of liberation in the way that it does make sense that to attain moksha and free yourself, liberate yourself from the cycle of reincarnation and samsara and stuff like that, you have to worry. It's almost like it's highlighted to worry about yourself and give up all worldly possessions and worldly people and stuff like that. And while you do guide people, you do are mostly just giving up everything. Um, I find it a better way to be a positive product in society, the world, and in that way I can better help people. Um, is why I resonate so heavily with Sikhism. I feel like, they have, even in the, like how I mentioned earlier, their 5Ks, which is the 5Ks would be the articles of faith that they carry and they carry in their lives in order to almost to remind themselves that they are warriors of justice, to not fall to let people be attacked and dehumanized. I feel like that's a very important word, dehumanize, because that's essentially what I feel like Hinduism does to yourself. You almost dehumanize yourself, and you do it in order to attain moksha. But um, sometimes I don't necessarily agree with that. The 5Ks would just be the kesh or kesh, which is like uncut hair. That's why a lot of Sikh people have like long beard and a lot of hair. And they have a wooden comb called the kanga that they use to keep their hair tidy, and it's like a symbol of cleanliness. The kara, which is a steel bracelet, which is a symbol of strength and unity. Kachara, a special type of like undergarments, which is a symbol of self-control and sexual purity. And the kirpan, which is a small sword, symbol of the Sikhs' willingness to stand up for justice and defend people of all walks of life and stuff like that, and defend the weak. These articles I feel like are considered important because they remind the Sikhs of their commitment to their faith, and they almost help them live a more moral, disciplined life, carrying this around with them. And they do have like more to the comparing and contrasting aspect of it. Make sure I don't have another. Yeah, I don't want to go too much off the rail, but more to the comparing and contrasting aspect. You do see Sikhism and Hinduism as two sides of a coin in India, and it's mostly about how I see it is the way your impact on the world. Um, I feel it is harder to be almost in India for sure. Hinduism, due to the caste system, it's like whatever coin, whatever toss of the dime you're dealt with, like the hand you're dealt with, you have to deal with it. And Sikh's role in society is just so almost undervalued because they do so much. That's why you see Sikhs as prominent figures in, you could say, businessmen, army, all ways of life. I feel like Sikhs are at the focal point. Even in America, um, you see the difficulties they face largely due to, the head wraps they have to wear. They can almost be singled out more. And while you would think that would diminish their effect on the world and diminish their role in society, due in large in part to like the 5Ks, I also see them being more, um, it reminds them that they have to keep striving even while being a very minority of the already minority. Um, and it's just why I so heavily resonate with them. Um, and just last few final points, I just feel it's maybe not highlighted enough to people who don't take religion classes and stuff like that, that not everything is the same. Even I still now am kind of bunching up together Buddhism, Sikhism, and the other religions we learned throughout the class, like Taoism. They're very selfless religions in a way because they keep themselves pure and they try to like separate themselves from the world while also, promoting the world. They're also separating themselves in order to stay pure. Sikhism, I find, is one of the only religions that it shares the same value of, being a good person for karma, liberation, and the stuff. But they actually go and they do something about it. They don't stand back and try to like be free from the world. They want to be active in taking care of people who are being harmed and being the real warriors of society. Not necessarily physical. While they can get physical, it is more about the ideals of the world and making sure the world is just, making sure weak aren't being harmed, making sure uh, wrong is not being done to everyone. And in contrast to Hinduism, where I feel like the caste system is maybe more important than people as a whole, you really see how two sides of India can be the two religions in India can be polar opposites. And I just wanted to highlight that throughout my project. And final point, I just wanted to leave y'all thinking that while the caste system does its job in the Hinduism religion, um, do take in point that like Sikhism almost achieves the same goals through a different route where people aren't left to rot with what they have, the low status. In Sikhism, everybody is brothers in arms, brothers in faith, and it's almost the opposite, the polar opposite, even while being in the same country and region and stuff like that. Hopefully, you see hopefully, I presented a general understanding of how these two religions of India, one old, one newer, both share vital key points, but they also differ greatly, and specifically differ greatly on the human side of it. And yeah, the rest of it would just be my bibliography with all my um, references. And thank you for the class, and thank you for listening to my presentation.